lockdown period, parenting support provider Karitani has seen a 95% increase in demand for their services.
The biggest concerns facing young families are feeding and sleep, with 70% of all referrals to the service relating to settling our little ones. So as we navigate changes to the way we live, how can we make sure mums, dads and bubs get the support that they need?
And Director of Education at Karitani, Charlene Vlahos, joins us now live from Sydney. Charlene, thanks so much for your time. Welcoming a new baby is hard enough when the world is functioning normally. So what has the last few months during COVID meant for parents?
Well, thanks for having us. So, absolutely. This has been a really challenging time for parents. And I guess, parenting is challenging enough, but, even parenting within COVID has really increased that isolation. And I think it's really important to note that, 1 in 5 mums actually suffer from postnatal depression, and 1 in 10 dads can suffer from postnatal depression. So, it takes a village to raise a child, and when we don't have access to all of those supports that we're used to, this can be really difficult for parents. So, parenting in COVID has been really challenging.
Yeah, that support network is so important. It's said the first 5 years are such an important time in a child's life. Just explain that as to why.
So the first 2,000 days of a child's life actually is the foundation of their development. So by the time a child is 5, 90% of their brain is wired. And that's why parenting is so exhausting. This is the foundation of how they'll shape their future, how they'll be, go into the world and, go to school and form relationships. So it's so critical to have this time to really form those foundations, to those positive connections. So for parents, it's about, the warmth, it's the consistency, it's the predictability, it's all of those things that lay those really important foundations.
Karitani has launched a number of digital services to help parents at home, which is fantastic. So what support is now available online?
Yeah, so when COVID hit, Karitani transitioned 100% of our services to virtual. So that included our toddler clinic, our perinatal mental health services, and also our residential unit. And that was probably one of the most unique changes. So parents could be in their own home but still access really intensive support. So over a 4-day period, they had access to child and family health nurses really from the beginning of the morning right up until, late until the evening, 10 o'clock, when those really challenging times of settling. So that was a really important service to have, that parents could still get that access. And, partners could be involved. And what we saw with parents is actually they were really implementing those changes really early on. So it really boosted their confidence that they could do that. So, the virtual platforms have been kind of almost like, that lifeline for parents to really have that support, even though we were in lockdown.
How to get your newborn to sleep. OK, we've got everyone's attention now, Charlene. What are some top tips?
Well, it's not magic fairy dust, I can assure you. But certainly there are some key tips around getting your newborn to sleep. So learn their tired signs. Get to know your baby really early on. And as soon as you see them tired, get them into bed. Their own sleep space is really important, getting them used to that. And be responsive. The gentle rock, a gentle pat can be really, really teaches them how to calm and settle. Newborns sometimes like to be wrapped. Those reflexes wake them up. And take your time. You have to get to know each other. And, babies don't read the books that we do. They don't know how to sleep by themselves. That definitely is one of those things you learn together.
If sleeping's a big issue, then feeding is surely the second biggest one. So what's the best ways to get our baby to eat?
Yeah, so in the early stages, particularly if you're breastfeeding, we really recommend breastfeed on demand. Kind of go with your baby, particularly when you're trying to establish those breastfeeding patterns. If you're bottle feeding, then try and stick to the one formula, but also get the right teat, one that's not too fast, not too slow. And get your baby to finish their feeds. They love being snuggled up with you, so they fall asleep often, and so it's hard to get them to finish their feeds. And so that thing around being, comfort, from you is actually really important. But once again, it's a learning process. Take time. You'll find your own position and your own way of feeding.
Charlene, you mentioned postnatal depression earlier. Mental health, not just for mums but also dads, is really important, especially at the moment, isn't it? So how can parents make sure they're looking after themselves?
Well, I think one of the things really with parents is to be well educated around what are the signs of postnatal depression. You might recognise it in your own, in your partner or in yourself. So the key is to get support really early. But it's also as well, parents put a lot of pressure on themselves to be, you know, the perfect parent. And so we're really asking parents to take the pressure off themselves. And it's not selfish to look after yourself. It's the whole thing around, you know, the oxygen mask first on you, and then you're there to be the best version of yourself. So get support. And it's Men's Health Week as well. You know, dads, this is the time to look after yourself. And really take care of yourself, and it's okay to get help.
Yeah, Charlene, all great advice. Wonderful to talk to you. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And to find out more about Karitani,